It started with a lie. Come work for me. I promise I won't touch you. But Kang Jae-hyun, the Ghost King, Seoul's most feared executioner, touched her anyway. Not with his hands at first, but with his obsession, with his protection, with a promise that became a cage that became something neither of them could name. Lena was just a Nigerian waitress in the wrong place at the wrong time. She witnessed a murder. He was supposed to erase her. Instead, he kept her. Locked her in his penthouse, made her fall for the very danger she should have run from. In part 2, everything shattered. She was kidnapped, betrayed. She learned the truth. Jaehyun was the monster who should have killed her the night they met. In part 3, the past exploded. She wasn't random. She wasn't nobody. Her family had been hiding her. Her aunt had been lying, and a voice on the phone called her little sister, a voice from a past she couldn't remember. In part 4, her brother came home. Elochukwu, the boy with the scar, the man who spent 20 years searching, surrounded them with an army and gave her an ultimatum. Come home in 24 hours or watch innocent people die, she agreed. One day to say goodbye, one day to find another way, one day before she belonged to the family that would never let her go. Now this is part 5, the finale, the end of running, the moment every lie comes to light. The moment Lena stops being saved and starts saving herself. If you've made it this far, you're part of something special. Hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications, because what happens next will break you, shock you, and leave you breathless. New here? Go back. Watch parts 1 to 4. You need to know how we got here to understand how it ends. This is it. The moment everything ends or everything begins. Let's finish this story. The Hanok was too quiet. That was the first thing Lena noticed after Elochukwu and his guardians disappeared into the night. The suffocating silence that pressed down on her chest like a physical weight. No footsteps, no whispered conversations, just the sound of her own breathing and the faint crackle of the dying fire in the brazier. Jaehyun sat across from her at the low table, his face cast in shadows by the flickering light. His injured shoulder was freshly bandaged. She'd changed the dressing after Elochukwu left, but she could see the way he held himself carefully, the way his jaw tightened with each breath. The infection was setting in. She could see it in the slight glaze of his eyes, the flush spreading across his pale skin. He was getting worse, and he was pretending he wasn't. 24 hours, Lena said, her voice barely above a whisper. It was the first thing either of them had said since her brother's ultimatum. That's all we have. It's enough. Jaehyun's response was immediate, automatic, but she heard the thread of doubt woven through it. We'll find a way out. We always do. Do we? Lena looked at him, really looked at him, at the Ghost King who'd saved her more times than she could count, at the man who'd taken a bullet meant for her and was now slowly dying from the wound. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like we're out of options. I go with Elochukwu, or people die. Those are the choices. Those are the choices they're giving us. Jaehyun leaned forward, wincing at the movement. But we don't have to play by their rules. We never have. Their rules are the only thing keeping innocent people alive right now. Then we change the game. His eyes burned with that familiar intensity, the one that had terrified her in the beginning and now somehow anchored her. We find leverage. We find proof. We find something that makes your going home unnecessary. And if we can't? The question hung between them, heavy and terrible. Jaehyun's expression didn't change, but Lena saw the moment of hesitation, the flicker of something that might have been fear or helplessness or both. Then I'll find a way to get you back. He said quietly, even if it takes the rest of my life, even if I have to burn down both families to do it, I will get you back. Lena's throat tightened. You can't promise that. Watch me. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. But wanting something and having it were two different things, and she'd learned that lesson too many times in the past weeks. We need to know what we're up against, she said, forcing herself to focus. 24 hours. They had 24 hours to find a miracle. Elochukwu, the Eze family, this alliance they want me to complete. We need to understand what they really want. Sungho's already working on it. Jaehyun pulled out his phone with his good hand, typing one-handed. I had him start digging the moment Elochukwu showed up with his terms. If there's anything in the digital records, financial transactions, communications, anything, he'll find it. As if summoned, Sungho appeared in the doorway, his laptop tucked under one arm, his face grim. Sir, you need to see this. They crowded around the laptop as Sung-ho pulled up file after file, encrypted documents he'd managed to crack, emails written in a mixture of Igbo and Korean, financial records that traced money across continents. The alliance isn't about peace, Sung-ho said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. It's about power, specifically something called the bloodline ritual. Lena's blood ran cold. What kind of ritual? Ancient, brutal, supposedly grants the family ancestral power by combining two powerful bloodlines through marriage. Sung-ho pulled up a scanned document, old, written in languages Lena only half understood. According to these records, the Ez family has been practicing this for generations. The heir marries someone from another powerful family, they consummate the marriage during a ceremony, and then he stopped, his face going pale. And then what? Jaehyun's voice was deadly quiet. And then the bride dies. Sung-ho looked at Lena, and she saw genuine fear in his eyes. The ritual requires her death to seal the power. They call it a willing sacrifice, but according to these records, none of the brides went willingly. They were all... He stopped again, shaking his head. Lena felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. My mother. Ran before they could complete it, Sung-ho confirmed. She found out what the ritual really meant. That's why she took you and disappeared. That's why your aunt hid you for 20 years. And now they want to finish what they started. Jaehyun's hands clenched into fists. Over my dead body. There's something else, Sung-ho said hesitantly. I found encrypted messages, sent from an account registered to Elochukwu. They're heavily coded, but I managed to decrypt a few. He pulled up the messages on screen. I found her, but I won't let them have her. Get the team ready. We move when she's in position. The family can't know. They'll kill us all if they find out. Lena stared at the words, her mind racing. He's planning something. Something against the family. He's planning a coup, Jaehyun said, reading between the lines. He's been gathering those guardians not to capture you, but to... A sound at the entrance cut him off. Every weapon in the room was drawn in an instant, Jaehyun moving to shield Lena despite the way his shoulder screamed in protest. But the figure that stepped through the doorway had his hands raised, empty and non-threatening. Elochukwu. Alone this time. No guardians. No army. Just her brother, looking exhausted and desperate, and somehow smaller without the tactical gear and masks of his followers. Don't shoot, he said quietly. I'm not here to take her. I'm here to save her. Jaehyun didn't lower his weapon. Give me one reason not to put a bullet in your head right now. Because I'm the only one who can help you keep her alive. Elochukwu's eyes found Lena's, and she saw something raw and painful in them. The family wants her for the ritual. They've been planning it since they found out she was in Korea. But I didn't spend 20 years searching for my sister just to hand her over to die. Then what do you want? Lena asked, her voice steadier than she felt. I want what you want. To end this. To destroy the system that killed our mother and would kill you too. Elochukwu took a careful step forward. I've been planning this for years, gathering people loyal to me, not the family, building evidence, waiting for the right moment, and that moment is now. Why should we trust you? Jaehyun demanded. Because if I wanted her dead or captured, she already would be. I had 20 guardians at that factory. I could have taken her by force. Elochukwu's jaw clenched. But I'm not our grandfather. I'm not the kind of monster who treats family like property. Lena felt something shift inside her. A memory trying to surface, triggered by his voice, his face, the way he stood. A fragment of a child's recollection. A boy with a scar, holding her hand. A boy who promised to protect her. A boy who cried when their mother said goodbye. Elo, she whispered. Elochukwu's composure cracked just for a second, and she saw the boy underneath the soldier. You remember? Lena's hands trembled. I don't know. Maybe. Fragments. A boy who... Her voice broke. A boy who loved me. I did. I do. Elochukwu's eyes were suddenly bright with unshed tears. You were my best friend, the person I trusted most in the world. And then one day you were just gone. Mother said you had to leave, that it was the only way to keep you safe. I wanted to go with you, but she said no. Said I had to stay, had to grow up, had to become strong enough to protect you when the family finally found you. And you did, Lena said, tears streaming down her own face now. You found me. I did, but not to bring you home to die, to give you a chance to fight. Elochukwu looked at Jaehyun. You love her? I can see it. And she? His eyes flicked back to Lena. She loves you, even if she's too scared to say it. So let's work together. Let's end this so she can actually have a life instead of being a pawn in someone else's game. Jaehyun was quiet for a long moment, his weapon still trained on Elokuku, his eyes calculating every angle, every risk. Finally, slowly, he lowered the gun. "You have until dawn," he said. "Convince me you're not playing us, and we'll talk alliance. But if I find out you're lying, if you do anything to put her in more danger, there won't be enough pieces of you left to bury." Elochukwu nodded. "Fair enough." They talked through the night. Elochukwu laid out everything, his network of loyal guardians, the evidence he'd been collecting, the weakness in the family structure that could be exploited. Jaehyun and Sung-ho cross-referenced every claim, verified every piece of information, looked for holes in the story. And slowly, impossibly, a plan began to form. "We can't stop the ceremony," Elochukwu said, spreading maps and documents across the table. "The family is too invested, too many people are watching. If we try to prevent it entirely, they'll just reschedule and increase security." "So we let it happen," Jaehyun said grimly. "We let it start," Elochukwu corrected. "But we make sure it doesn't finish. We expose the ritual publicly, in front of everyone. Make it impossible for the family to continue the tradition without losing all credibility and power." "How?" Lena asked. "With this." Elochukwu pulled out a small device, a recording chip, so tiny it could be hidden anywhere. "You go to the ceremony as planned. You let them start the ritual. And you get our grandfather to confess everything on record. And if he won't? He will. He's arrogant, believes the tradition is sacred, untouchable. If you ask the right questions, if you play the willing heir who just wants to understand, he'll tell you everything. He'll want you to know what you're giving your life for." Lena's stomach turned. "And while I'm doing that, where will you be?" "Surrounding the ceremony with every guardian loyal to me. The moment you broadcast that recording, we move in. Arrest the grandfather, dissolve the ritual, force the family to reorganize under new leadership." "Under your leadership," Jaehyun said. "No." Elochukwu shook his head. "I don't want it. Never have. But Lena," he looked at his sister, "if you claim it, if you take leadership as the rightful heir, you could end this, transform the family into something that doesn't require human sacrifice to function." "I don't know anything about running a criminal organization," Lena said. "Then learn, or better yet, dismantle it. Turn it into something legitimate. Use the power for good instead of death." Elochukwu's voice was fierce. "Our mother couldn't escape it, but maybe you can transform it." The plan was insane, dangerous. 100 things could go wrong, but it was also the only chance they had. "I'll need proof the recording is real," Lena said. "Something I can show the families, the council, everyone watching. Something they can't deny." "We have it," Sung-ho said, pulling up another file. "Your aunt. She's been in Seoul this whole time, and according to these records, she has documents, original ritual texts, proof of previous deaths, everything we'd need to corroborate your recording." Lena's heart clenched. "My aunt is here? Has been for weeks, staying at a luxury hotel in Gangnam. Someone's been funding her stay, probably the family." Sung-ho looked grim. "She brought you here, Lena. She was part of this. Then we need to talk to her," Jaehyun said. "Now, before she disappears or warns the family." The hotel was too nice for someone who'd been hiding. That was Lena's first thought as they pulled up to the luxury building in Gangnam, all glass and steel and money, the kind of place that catered to people who wanted to disappear in plain sight behind wealth and anonymity. Her aunt had always lived modestly in Lagos. The fact that she was staying here, funded by mysterious sources, confirmed what Lena had been trying not to believe. Chioma Okafor had been part of this all along. They went up in silence. Lena, Jaehyun, Elochukwu, and 2 of Sung-ho's most trusted men. Jaehyun moved carefully, his injured shoulder hidden beneath a fresh jacket, but Lena could see the pain etched into the lines around his eyes. He needed medical attention. Real medical attention, not field dressing and antibiotics scavenged from a first aid kit. But he refused to leave her side, and she didn't have the strength to argue anymore. The penthouse suite door opened on the 3rd knock. Chioma stood in the doorway, wearing an elegant wrapper and blouse, her hair wrapped in traditional jella. And for just a second, Lena saw the woman who'd raised her, the aunt who'd braided her hair and taught her to cook and held her when she cried after her parents died. Then she saw the guilt in Chioma's eyes, and the illusion shattered. "Lena," Chioma's voice cracked on the name. "Oh, my dear girl, I knew you'd come." "Did you?" Lena's voice was cold in a way it had never been with her aunt before. "Did you know, or did you hope? Because there's a difference between expecting me and hoping I'd figure out you've been lying to me my entire life." Chioma flinched like she'd been struck. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. Lena pushed past her into the suite, the others following. Why explain how the woman who raised me, who I trusted more than anyone in the world, could deliver me to a family that wants me dead. Explain how you could look me in the eyes all those years and lie about who I am, where I came from, what I was running from. I was protecting you. Chioma's composure cracked, tears streaming down her face. Everything I did, every lie I told, it was to keep you alive. To give you the childhood your mother wanted for you. A normal life. A chance to be just Lena, not the Eze heir, not the ritual sacrifice, not the pawn in a game that's been playing for centuries. By bringing me to Korea? Lena's voice rose. By putting me exactly where they could find me? By giving you a chance to fight? Chioma grabbed Lena's hands, desperate. Don't you see? If you'd stayed in Lagos, if you'd stayed hidden forever, you'd never be free. The family would have found you eventually, when I was too old to protect you, when you let your guard down, when you met someone and wanted a normal life. They would have found you and taken you, and you'd have no allies, no weapons, no chance. So you brought me here, to him. Lena gestured at Jaehyun. You knew what would happen. You knew about the murder I'd witnessed, about the Ghost King, about all of it. Chioma's silence was answer enough. The murder was staged, Jaehyun said, his voice flat and dangerous. Wasn't it? You worked with the council to put Lena in that alley at exactly the right time. Not me, Chioma said quickly. The family. They have people everywhere. They knew if Lena witnessed a crime, she'd be pulled into the underworld legally. The council would have jurisdiction, and once she was in that world, she looked at Jaehyun. They knew about you, knew the Ghost King would either kill her quickly or keep her. Either way, she'd be accessible. You used me, Lena whispered. You used him. You used all of us. I gave you tools. Chioma's voice was fierce now. I put you with the one man in Korea dangerous enough to protect you. I made sure Elochukwu knew where you were so he could watch over you. I spent 20 years building networks, gathering allies, collecting evidence, all so that when this moment came, you'd have a fighting chance. She moved to a safe hidden behind a painting, inputting a code with shaking hands. The door swung open, revealing stacks of documents, USB drives, photographs. This is everything, Chioma said, pulling out folder after folder. Original ritual texts showing the bride must die. Financial records proving the family has been murdering women for generations. Testimonies from people who escaped. Medical reports on previous willing sacrifices showing they were drugged, coerced, or both. DNA evidence connecting the family to unsolved disappearances across 3 continents. She spread it all across the table. 20 years of careful collection, of dangerous investigation, of preparing for this exact moment. Your mother made me promise, Chioma said, her voice breaking. Before she died, before the family caught up with her, she made me swear that if they ever found you, I'd give you the weapons to destroy them. Not to run again, not to hide, but to burn the whole thing down so no other girl would be sacrificed to tradition and power and lies. Lena stared at the evidence, her mind reeling. My mother is dead? The question came out small, broken, and Chioma's face crumpled. The car accident wasn't an accident, she said softly. The family found her, found both your parents. They died protecting you, keeping the family from learning where you were. I only survived because they thought I was nobody, just a distant relative raising an orphan. By the time they realized I knew where you were already here, already visible, and killing me would have brought attention they didn't want. The room spun. Lena grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. Her parents, murdered, not an accident, not bad luck, murdered because they'd run from this family, because they'd chosen her life over tradition. Jaehyun was at her side instantly, his good hand on her back, grounding her. Breathe? Just breathe. They killed them, Lena gasped. They killed my parents and I never knew. I spent years thinking it was just random, just bad luck. But they were murdered and nobody told me and I... You were 15, Chioma said, tears streaming down her face. What was I supposed to tell you? That your family was being hunted? That you were next? That every day you went to school or smiled or lived your life, killers were searching for you? I gave you normalcy as long as I could. I gave you the childhood your mother died to protect. Elochukwu stepped forward, his voice gentle. She also gave you me. She made sure I knew where you were, made sure I could find you when the time came. Not to capture you, but to save you. Everyone keeps saying they're saving me, Lena said, her voice hollow, but it feels like everyone's just using me, moving me around like a chess piece, making decisions about my life without asking what I want. Then tell us. Jaehyun's voice was soft but firm. What do you want, Lena? She looked at him, at the Ghost King who'd become so much more, at the man who'd taken a bullet for her, who was standing here injured and feverish because he refused to leave her unprotected, at the person who'd given her more choice than anyone else in this nightmare, even when those choices were terrible. I want it to end, she whispered. I want them to stop. Her voice broke. I want to go back to when I was just a waitress, and you were just a customer, and none of this was real. We can't go back, Jaehyun said. But we can go forward. We can end this so thoroughly that no one, not the Ezi family, not the Korean syndicate, not anyone, can ever use you like this again. How? With this. He gestured to the evidence Chioma had gathered. We go to the ceremony, you wear a wire, you get your grandfather to confess everything on record, and then we broadcast it to everyone, every family member, every syndicate leader, every person who's been complicit in this tradition. We expose it so completely that the ritual dies. Not just for you, for everyone. Lena looked at the documents spread across the table. 20 years of her aunt's life compiled into evidence that could destroy a family. Her family, her blood. If I do this, she said slowly, if I expose them, there's no going back. I can never be just Lena again. I'll always be the Eze heir who betrayed her own family. Or, Elishukwu said quietly, you'll be the Eze heir who saved it, who transformed it into something that doesn't require death to maintain power, who gave the next generation a chance to choose their own lives. Lena closed her eyes, feeling the weight of impossible choices pressing down on her. Behind her eyelids, she saw her mother running, saw her father protecting her, saw 15 years of normal life that had been bought with their blood. She opened her eyes. Show me how to work the wire, she said. And teach me everything I need to know about this ritual, because if I'm walking into that ceremony, I'm walking in prepared to burn it all down. The next 18 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Chioma taught Lena the ritual structure, the traditional garments, the ceremonial words, the moments when the grandfather would be most vulnerable to revealing truths. Elishukwu drilled her on family politics, teaching her which members were loyal to the grandfather and which might be swayed. Sungho fitted her with the recording device, so small it could be sewn into the lining of her ceremonial dress, completely invisible. And Jaehyun watched her with eyes that said everything he couldn't put into words. He was getting worse. The fever was higher now, the infection spreading despite the antibiotics. He needed real medical care. But he refused to leave, refused to miss a moment of her preparation, refused to let her face this alone. When dawn broke on the day of the ceremony, Lena found him standing by the window, looking out at Seoul as it woke. He'd changed into fresh clothes, all black as always, and she could see the careful way he held his injured shoulder. You should be resting, she said softly. I'll rest when you're safe. He didn't turn around. I'll rest when this is over and you're free, and I know no one's coming for you anymore. Jaehyun, do you remember the first time I saw you? He turned now, and the intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. In that alley, you were running and terrified, and you should have been easy to eliminate. That's what I told myself. Just another witness, just another problem to solve. But then you looked at me, and I saw. He stopped, struggling with words. I saw someone who didn't know she was supposed to be afraid of the Ghost King. Someone who looked at me like I was just a man, and I couldn't do it. Couldn't be the monster everyone needed me to be. Not with you. You were never a monster, Lena said. I was. I am. His voice was rough. I've killed people, Lena. Done things that would horrify you if you knew the full extent. I'm not a good man. I'm not someone you should. He stopped again, jaw clenching. Should what? Should love. The words came out broken. Should care about. Should risk your life trying to save. Lena crossed to him, standing close enough to feel his warmth. What if I do anyway? Then you're a fool. But his hand came up, cupping her cheek, his thumb brushing across her skin with devastating gentleness. And I'm the biggest fool of all, because knowing you shouldn't love me doesn't stop me from loving you. The confession hung between them, raw and terrifying and more real than anything Lena had ever felt. When this is over, she started, don't. Jaehyun's voice was fierce. Don't make promises about after. Just come back. Walk out of that ceremony alive and free and we'll figure out the rest. I will. Promise me. I promise. She rose on her toes, pressing a soft kiss to his cheek. I'll come back, and when I do, we're going to have a very long conversation about feelings and futures and everything we've been too scared to say. I'm holding you to that. A knock at the door, Ella Chukwu, dressed in formal attire that marked him as guardian commander. It's time. The car is waiting. Lena took a deep breath, steadying herself. She was wearing traditional Ezi ceremonial clothing now, layers of rich fabric in deep blues and golds, her hair wrapped in elaborate jelly, her skin marked with ritual symbols that Chioma had drawn with practiced hands. She looked like royalty, like an heir, like someone walking to her own execution. Remember, Eloku said as they headed for the door, get him talking. Make him believe you're the willing heir who just wants to understand the family traditions. He's arrogant enough to tell you everything if he thinks you're compliant. And if something goes wrong? Lena asked. Then I'll burn the whole place down to get you out. This from Jaehyun, his voice deadly serious. Nobody touches you, not while I'm breathing. That's what I'm afraid of, Lena murmured. But she squeezed his hand once, briefly, before following Elachukwu out the door. The ceremony site was 2 hours outside Seoul, an estate that blended traditional Korean and Nigerian architecture in ways that should have been beautiful, but instead felt ominous. Ancient stone, carved wood, symbols that spoke of power and blood and sacrifice. The entire Eze family was gathered. Extended relatives Lena had never met, faces that shared her features in unsettling ways. The Korean syndicate leadership stood in formal rows, cold and calculating. And at the center of it all, seated on an elevated platform like a king, was the man Lena had never met but who haunted all her nightmares. Her grandfather, the patriarch, the monster. He was ancient, his face carved with deep lines that spoke of decades of power and cruelty, but his eyes were sharp, missing nothing, and when they landed on Lena as she entered, she felt the weight of his attention like a physical thing. Adais. He used her easy name, the one she'd never heard spoken aloud. My granddaughter. You've finally come home. Lena forced herself to bow in the traditional way Chioma had taught her. Grandfather, I'm honored to be here. As you should be. He gestured for her to approach. Come, let me see you properly. Let me see if you're truly worthy of the gift we're about to give you. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but Lena forced her feet to move forward, climbing the steps to stand before the man who'd ordered her mother's death, who'd hunted her for 20 years, who fully intended to murder her in a matter of hours. You look like her, he said, studying her face. Like Aurora, your mother. She was beautiful too. Willful, foolish, but beautiful. She was brave, Lena said quietly. She protected me. She was a coward who ran from her duty. The patriarch's voice was cold. But you're here. You're ready to fulfill what she failed to complete, to give your life meaning through the ritual. This was it, the moment to start recording, to get him talking. I want to understand, Lena said, keeping her voice soft, obedient. The ritual, what it means, what happens. I want to know what I'm giving my life for. The patriarch smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing Lena had ever seen. Of course, my child. You deserve to understand the honor you're about to receive. And he began to talk. He talked for 20 minutes, and every word was recorded. The patriarch explained the ritual with the pride of someone describing a masterpiece, how the Ez family had practiced this for 8 generations, how each bride's death sealed power into the family bloodline, how it was an honor to be chosen, how Lena should feel grateful for the opportunity to give her life meaning. He described previous brides in detail, their names, their families, how they'd been prepared. How some had gone willingly, drugged into compliance with traditional herbs that made them pliant and accepting. How others had fought and been restrained. How one had tried to run during the ceremony and been dragged back, her screams silenced by hands over her mouth. Your mother was supposed to be the 7th, he said, his voice almost wistful. Such a waste when she ran, such chaos it caused. The Korean syndicate nearly broke the alliance over it. Took years of negotiation to rebuild trust. But now, he smiled at Lena, now you'll complete what she failed. You'll be the 7th bride, the one who finally unites our families properly. And after the marriage? Lena asked, her voice steady despite the horror churning in her stomach. After the consummation, what happens then? Then comes the sealing. He gestured to the ceremonial blade displayed on a nearby altar, long, curved, beautiful, and deadly. A quick death, painless, if you don't resist. Your blood mixed with your husband's offered to the ancestors. Your life force absorbed into the family line. Immortality through sacrifice. Have any of the brides known beforehand? Lena asked. Known they would die? Some. Most were told it was symbolic, that the death was metaphorical, a shedding of the old self. Easier that way. Less struggle. He studied her face. But you're asking direct questions. You're stronger than the others. Good. A willing sacrifice carries more power than one taken by force. I'm willing, Lena lied, the words tasting like ash. I just want to understand what my life means, what it's for. It's for greatness. The patriarch stood, addressing not just Lena, but the assembled crowd. For 8 generations, this family has grown stronger through this ritual. We've built empires, controlled continents, and all of it through the sacred tradition of blood and binding. Today, we continue that legacy. Today, Adeze Lena Eze joins with Kim Dae-jung of the Korean Syndicate. And tonight, his eyes glittered with terrible anticipation. Tonight, she ascends to become part of something greater than herself. The crowd murmured approval. Faces Lena didn't know, would never know, all nodding along to her planned murder like it was perfectly reasonable, like her life was just fuel for their power and tradition. The groom was brought forward. Kim Dae-jung, the syndicate heir. He was older than Lena by at least a decade, his face cold and handsome in a way that made her skin crawl. He looked at her like she was a business transaction, an asset, a thing to be used and discarded. Shall we begin? The patriarch asked. This was it. The moment Elachukwu had told her to watch for, when everyone was gathered, when the confession was complete, when the recording had captured enough to destroy them all. Lena reached up, touching the pendant around her neck, a signal to Elochukwu's team that she was ready. And then she pulled out the small remote transmitter Sung-ho had hidden in her ceremonial sash. Before we begin, she said, her voice carrying across the space, I think everyone should hear what this ritual really means. She pressed the button. Screens that had been hidden around the ceremony site flared to life. Sung-ho's team had infiltrated hours earlier, setting up the equipment. The patriarch's voice played back, crystal clear, describing the murder of previous brides, describing the drugs, the restraints, the screams. The crowd went silent. Shocked faces turned from the screens to the patriarch to Lena. You recorded. The patriarch's face contorted with rage. You dare. I dare to tell the truth, Lena said, her voice steady and strong now. 8 generations of murdered women, 8 generations of families told their daughters were honored when they were really being sacrificed. My mother discovered this truth and ran, and you had her killed for it. Killed both my parents to keep the lie alive. She pulled out the documents Chioma had given her, holding them high. I have proof. Names, dates, medical reports on drugged and coerced women, financial records of payments to families who stayed quiet. Everything you've hidden for generations, I'm going to expose, not just to this crowd, to everyone. She nodded to Sung-ho's hidden team, and she knew they were broadcasting this beyond the ceremony, to news outlets, to family members around the world, to anyone who would listen. The ritual is over, Lena said, looking her grandfather in the eye. The lies are over, and your power is over. For one heartbeat, the world hung suspended. Then the patriarch screamed, Kill her! Kill her now! And everything exploded into chaos. Guards rushed forward from all sides. The crowd scattered, some trying to flee, others pulling weapons. Kim Dae-jung lunged for Lena, trying to grab her, but she was already moving, dodging, using everything Jae-hyun had taught her in stolen training sessions. Then the doors burst open. Elachukwu and his guardians poured in like a flood. 20 elite fighters in perfect formation, weapons drawn, moving with deadly precision. They engaged the patriarch's guards instantly, the ceremony site transforming into a battlefield. Lena, get down. Elochukwu's voice cut through the chaos. She dropped as gunfire erupted overhead. This wasn't supposed to happen. The plan was supposed to be clean. Expose the ritual, force surrender, reorganize peacefully. But the patriarch's loyalists weren't surrendering. They were fighting to the death to protect the tradition. Lena crawled toward cover, her ceremonial dress snagging on debris. She could see Elochukwu fighting 3 guards at once, his movements beautiful and brutal. Could see Chioma sheltering terrified family members who'd had no idea what the ritual really meant. And then she saw the patriarch. He was coming for her personally, the ceremonial blade in his hand, his face twisted with hate. You think you can destroy me? He snarled, advancing. I built this family. I made us powerful. Your death will mean something, even if I have to carve the power into you myself. Lena scrambled backward, her hand closing around a piece of broken furniture.